Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am doing a little bit of a mail haul today. It says tear at perforation to open. There we go. Tough Times Publishing. Very good. The Unexpected Time, a memoir in poems by Troy Tradup. Troy Tradup is a fellow booktuber, actually a booktuber of longer standing than I. He's about my contemporary. I just did a quick Google to double check that, and he's slightly younger than I. And he, in the past month or so, was posting videos of him reading the poems in this book, one poem per day approximately, and I enjoyed those poems quite a bit. Somebody a few times left the comment to the effect that this poem, whichever poem it happened to be that day, this poem just really sends me back to my own experiences. It really captures something of my own life, growing up or whatever. And I actually felt the same sort of thing for a number of poems, quite a few of them, although our life trajectories were very different. I would say that none of the experiences which he recounted would have equals in my own life. For example, I was not hanging around truck stops that I recall, but somehow I think the experiences are pretty universal in their way. So I thought I would read maybe a couple. Now I've seen these, but I have not looked at the book, obviously, so I don't know what I'm going to get. Now there is a content note. These poems contain language, themes, sexual content, and general weirdness some readers may find objectionable. The poems in this collection were inspired by actual events in the author's life. However, the versions of people, locations, and circumstances presented here belong entirely to the author's fuzzy and often self-serving memory and should never be construed as anything remotely resembling reality. Well, isn't that the case for most of our memories? Well, I should try to give a brief scan and try to keep it a PG rating if I can. Let's see. Okay, how about this? Retirement clock ticking. At a certain point, the sense that your job has wasted all your time grows exponentially more convincing, though the sense you've wasted your entire life conversely starts to fade. Some particular peace descends, and life becomes finally precisely what it is. Law of diminishing returns. Perceived importance falls away, leaving what? Contemplation, though not specific to past or future. Suddenly, simply everything now. Maybe it's simple math. Exhaustion minus exhaustion equals permission to finally stop fighting fights you had no chance of ever winning anyway. His being an almost exact contemporary of mine, perhaps, is one of the things which makes a poem like that so relatable, although I know just from his channel that Troy has dedicated much more of his life to serious jobs than ever I did. I did my best to avoid that scourge, but nobody can escape it entirely, I think. Also, perhaps the fact that he and I are both writers, both playwrights, and he, of course, had more success in that endeavor than did I. Here's a nice photo. So I will read Playwriting 101. Hearing an audience laugh at something I've written is wonderful, of course, but hearing them cry approaches the sublime. I wonder what that says about me, craving the tears of strangers over the rollick of their joy. I'd like to say laughs come too easy, but that's not true of the good ones. And unlike cheap laughs, cheap tears are often as satisfying as those built on solid effort. It's possible this relates to the secret pain I always looked for in a boy. Wounds that wouldn't close, scars that remained years after the original trauma. I'm an easy crier myself, stung by sentimentality, even as I recognize it. Sometimes I'll play one particular song because I know a certain lyric will set the waterworks free, and then I can go on about my day. My mom was a big crier and often sat inside herself for hours at a stretch. I inherited that from her, like the lumbering bear's walk I picked up from my dad. My mom never saw one of my plays, only one staged reading, I believe. She didn't like to go out toward the end, cart her oxygen around, and frankly, I was so full of ego those nights, I probably wouldn't have noticed anyway. She worried she was the bad mother in the final script I showed her. I assured her she was not, though I didn't say that my upbringing, good, bad, or indifferent, rarely crossed my mind back then. My stories and plays, the person I'd become, were from another life entirely. She would have been a great audience, though, and had she ever made it out, one of those who laugh and cry at both the cheap stuff and the real. After, she would have made me sign her program to put in a drawer at home, beside a bag of fun-size Snickers, one of dozens she'd leave for us to find. Then she'd turn on the TV, slip on the headphones, open the current book, and settle once more into her very private theater, a play grander than any to be found out in the enormous, noisy world. So perhaps I inherited playwriting from her as well, or at least the cave where words begin to whisper, and audiences wait, breathless, to see if they will be called to laugh or cry, or on an exceptionally lucky night, perhaps a bit of both. So, pardon me for my couple of flub-ups. I have not had time to practice. I will put a link in the description box to Troy's channel, and he has threatened that he may put up a playlist of all of his readings of the poems here, and if he does that, I will put a link there too. So I thought I would share that with you. Now I have to go sit back and reacquaint myself with the poems. The book contains more than poems. My understanding is a short play, one-act play perhaps, and a short story of a sort. So there go my plans for this evening. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel.